Welcome back, beautiful ones. This is Forecast the Shift Timelines. And if you're new here, remember this isn't ordinary astrology. We're not just watching where the planets are, we're listening to the conversations they're having with us and how that dialogue can alter your choices, your embodiment, and your future. So, beautiful ones, this week's energy is Venus, right here, the symbol, entering Leo right here on August 25th, immediately standing across is Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Now, this isn't a random clash, it's a continuation of the story that began back in February of 2024. In February 2024 is when Venus, Mars, and Pluto met together in Aquarius. That moment opened a 2-year conversation about love, power, and what parts of ourselves have never been fully seen or loved. I do have a video where I talked about the conversation and the depth that we go into. And if you don't mind my rambling in my channel, channeling spirit, channeling our higher self, channeling these energies, then I'll put it up here for you. So just know if you want to go to back and want to kind of start there, you're welcome to. Okay. Now, that moment opened that mic for the 2-year conversation. And that conversation, again, was about love, power, and what parts of ourselves have never been fully seen or loved. And now, in that video, I'd said they were going to be checking in with each other. Okay. Now, the check-in arrives. Okay. Venus comes into Leo, saying, I will not hide my heart anymore. And Pluto answers back, well, then show me where you've withheld devotion from yourself. So it may feel raw, confronting, or like a mirror you can't turn away from. But that's because this week isn't about surface level astrology. Remember, that's not what we do here. It's about remembering the love that you withhold from yourself becomes the power you give away. And Pluto, right here, he will not stop until you reclaim it. Okay, because that's what he does. So on August 25th, Venus, right here, leaves the waters of Cancer. She's been in Cancer. She still is right now. But on the 25th, she leaves the waters of Cancer and steps into the fire of Leo. In Cancer, Venus was asking, where do I feel safe? Where do I feel nourished? Where do I belong? That season may have had you craving comfort and emotional connection, or simply a place where you could exhale and just relax, right? But now in Leo, Venus shifts the question. Where do I dare to be fully seen? Where do I allow my joy, my creativity, and my radiance to take up space? And she doesn't arrive gently. The moment that Venus steps into Leo, Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is waiting across the skies. It's like walking, think of it this way, it's like walking into the spotlight and realizing someone you can't ignore is sitting in the front row with their arms folded, watching closely. Venus says, I want to shine. I want to receive love and devotion. But Pluto replies, not until you face the places where you've withheld love from yourself. And let me say this conversation didn't start today or on this day. It began back in February of 2024. That's why I have that video. That's when Venus and Mars stood with Pluto up here in Aquarius in that stellium. That was the opening scene. Pluto asked the hard questions then. And what he was asking then was, what part of you has not been loved? What have you ignored or starved or silenced within yourself? And here's how it might be showing up now in real life. Okay. From the start of that conversation, that conversation. All right. So it may be showing up now as in maybe you've built a career where everyone praises you, but deep down, you know you've sacrificed your own joy. And the recognition, when you get it, it feels empty. Have any of you experienced that? Because I know I have. Maybe you're in a relationship where you give everything, but when it's your turn to receive, you feel unseen, like your needs don't matter. Any of you doing that? Because I know I have. It, or maybe you've put your creativity on the back burner for years, telling yourself you'll get it someday. But now you feel restless and frustrated and even jealous when you see others express themselves freely. Let me know in the comments below if any of you have experienced any of this or if you're experiencing this now. Okay. So when Venus in Leo is the part of you that wants to roar, it wants to radiate. It's the part of you that wants to radiate. It wants to finally be celebrated. And you're getting into this energy and you're feeling this way, but here comes Pluto. But Pluto in Aquarius is the mirror that won't let you fake it. If you know anything about Pluto and Aquarius, they are not going to let you fake it. Okay. So if your radiance isn't rooted in true self love, if you're still performing to earn love, I'm telling you right now, Pluto is going to expose it. So this isn't just a Venus sign change. No, it's a confrontation. It's joy versus shadow. It's the moment where you stop outsourcing devotion and decide whether you'll give it to yourself first. That's what's going on. Okay, let's talk about this Pluto retrograde opposition, and the axis is Aquarius and Leo. Okay, so we're talking about the personalities of Aquarius and Leo with these planets in there. Okay, so when we talk about oppositions in astrology, we're really talking about mirrors. Okay, two planets, Venus, in this case, and Pluto retrograde, two planets staring at each other from across the sky. And you can think of yourself as right in the middle, pulling you between their extremes until you find balance. And they're going to be pulling and you're going to be feeling it until you find the balance. Okay. So here again is the axis of Aquarius and Leo. And Venus in Leo, what she's saying is, I am love. I am joy. I deserve to be radiant and adored for who I am, right? There is that part of you. But Pluto in Aquarius is going to counter and say and ask these questions. But how much of that is real? And how much is performance for belonging? What part of your light is authentic? And what part is still shaped by old programs? By what the collective has told you is acceptable. So this opposition isn't subtle, all right? And it may show up as confrontation, not just with other people, but within yourself. So during this week, you may feel torn between wanting to express yourself boldly, but fearing rejection and judgment, okay? You may also notice the power struggles in relationships. Remember, the relationships are just mirroring us. And if you're watching my Venus series, you'll understand that. I'll put that one up here too so you can see it. So you may also notice the power struggles in relationships, especially if one person has been dimming their light for the other. Okay? That is going to be a power struggle. All right? You may also feel the collective weight of trying to fit in pressing against your personal desire to stand out. Okay. So Pluto retrograde in Aquarius right here is digging up the deeper story. The ways we've handed our power to group norms, to external approval, to the fear of exile, right? I better be quiet. I got to fit in, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff that we tell ourselves, right? Venus in Leo, though, doesn't negotiate with fear, right? We know that. She says, if I'm going to love, create, or shine, it has to come from my center, not from consensus. So, this opposition, you can think of it as a test. And the test that you're going to be asked, and can you do this, is can you hold your joy without asking the crowd for permission? Can you love yourself enough to stop outsourcing your worth? Are you still trying to prove your worth? Are you still trying to prove you're valid? Are you still trying to prove you're enough? Right? That could be coming up. Can you let your light stand in the face of shadow and still say, this is who I am? Now, remember I said this conversation started in 2024, back in February 2024. And that's when I had all of us look at the questions that we needed to be asking of ourselves, right? And I said this was going to be a 2-year conversation. Okay. So this is not the first time Venus and Pluto have had this conversation. Again, back in February of 2024, when Venus and Mars stood with Pluto in Aquarius, the questions were first asked. And they're not one-time questions. They're checkpoints. I said they were going to be checking in with each other, and this is that time. They're checkpoints that return until you answer them with truth. They're going to keep asking the question for the next 2 years until you answer them with truth. You don't have to resolve them, but you do need to answer them with truth. Does that make sense? Of course, you want to resolve them, but that's not the goal. The goal is to answer them with truth. Okay? So, as Venus steps into Leo and faces Pluto's mirror, ask yourself these questions again. Okay? And if those of you that don't want to go watch that video, the questions are, what part of me has not been loved? The second question, what do I feel I'm lacking? The third question, what parts of me need to be nurtured, nourished, or devoted to? Like there's so many times where our devotion goes outward instead of inward, and we neglect ourselves, right? Think about that when you're asking that question. What have I ignored or withheld from myself? That's the fourth question. And then the last question I would ask, what part of me has not received my love? What parts of me have I not loved from myself, right? Where I put somebody else first, where I thought of them first, where I denied myself, right? Now, as you ask these questions, because we're going to keep asking them for the next 2 years, right? Well, 3 years now, right? I mean, 1 year, 1.5 year now. Oh, I can't get my math right. Oh. Anyway, these questions can feel raw as you're asking them, but they are invitations because Venus in Leo says you are not meant to perform for love. You are meant to embody it. And Pluto retrograde, he insists that the places you've denied devotion to yourself cannot be bypassed anymore. It's not. It's hindering you. Okay? So the places that you've denied devotion to yourself, you need to look at that. All right? So this week, and these are the perfect energies for that. That's why I always say these planets, they're all here to help you, right? So let's let them help us, right? So what I want you to do this week is notice where these questions arise in your daily life. Is it in the way that you talk to yourself in the mirror, maybe? Or maybe it's in the way that you measure your worth at work. That's a big one. Maybe it's in the way that you hesitate to ask for what you need in love. So these are the small, ordinary moments where universal energy meets your human life. Okay. And this is where timelines shift, one act of self devotion at a time. This is so important for you and for me, for all of us. And here, as you're moving through your week, let me tell you what Venus is going to be whispering through this transit. Okay. She's going to be saying to all of us within ourselves, I am not the love you earn. I am the love you already are. Where you withhold me from yourself, that's where you're starving. When you embrace me, you overflow. So, if you've never seen me before, this is where I differ. Well, this is not the only difference, but this is where I differ from other astrologers or anybody in the spiritual community. I like to give you tools and help you work with this energy, help you move through this energy, give you some understanding, but I like to do very practical tools. So, here's some practical tools to really anchor this energy in this week and help you somatically, like in your body, as well as understanding in your mind, right? So, here's some simple practices. They won't take long, but let me tell you this. I can only give you my wisdom and what I know. It is up to you to do the work because there is still free will. Okay? So, let me give you a ritual, steps to take, practical steps to take, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So I want you this week, when these things come up for you, I want you to write a 1 sentence love note to the part of yourself that you usually overlook. All right. And you can start with something like, I see you now, and then let it be raw and real. Don't edit. Don't worry. Like, just write. Write whatever comes up. Okay. Now, that's one. The second thing, I like to do somatic practices so that you can like accept it in your nervous system. All right. So I want you to place one hand on your heart and the other on your belly. And you're going to put it on above your belly button. Okay. Then I want you to take 3 slow breaths, right? And say to yourself, I am safe to shine. That's it. And say it over and over. You can say it 3 to 5 times until you feel better. Okay. Now, think of artists. This is the third one. Think of artists or leaders or even people you know. Like, I know you know some people who stopped dimming themselves and finally stepped into themselves and owned their light. Now, this wasn't because the world gave them permission. You saw this in them, right? Because they gave it to themselves. That's the energy that I'm talking about. That Venus and Leo opposite Pluto. When you don't worry about what they're thinking or who they are or how you're going to be perceived, and you just beam your light, you give yourself permission. That's the energy. But I want you to think of those people and how they looked, what they looked like, what you felt from them. Okay. All right. So those are the 3. Now remember, I can give you these things to do, but it is up to you to do them. And yes, sometimes they're boring. Sometimes they're slow, but I'm telling you, they're healing. They're going to help you. All right. So beautiful ones. Let me leave you with this. This week's opposition is not about punishment. It never is. It's about revelation. Okay. So Venus and Leo is reminding you. That's what she's here to do. Just remind you, for you to remember. Self-devotion is not vanity. It's survival. Your radiance is non-negotiable. It's not negotiable. Okay. It's sacred. And Pluto retrograde will keep holding up that mirror until you stop outsourcing love and start becoming the source itself. Because that's who you are. You're just going to remember. Okay? The love you withheld from yourself is the power you've been giving away. When you take it back, you don't change your relationships, you change your future. So, beautiful one, let this week be your mirror moment. Will you dim down and wait for approval? Or will you love yourself so loud, louder than the shadow that told you not to? And, beautiful ones, remember, this isn't the only conversation happening on the channel. If you're walking through this Venus Pluto story, my Venus through the houses, again, I've put it up at the beginning. And my Venus through the houses series will help you understand how Venus lives in your chart. If you're navigating your soul direction, your life purpose, all that, the mission, I have the Soul's Path series. And that's on the North Node that shows you where your destiny is calling. And of course, if you're in the depths of transformation, Pluto through the houses. I worked on that for 2 years. I just finished it. We'll show you where the shadows are asking you to be healed. So come back every Monday for the forecast that shift timelines. Your weekly reminder that astrology, is not prediction, it's transformation. So together, we're not just tracking the stars, we're shifting timelines.